Hello there, cat people. Welcome to episode 11 of the Shelter Cats podcast. What is the Shelter Cats podcast? It is hosted by me. My name is Dan. I never introduced myself. I don't know why. It is a labor of love podcast. It's semi-professional. It used to be unprofessional, but I'm getting better. It is lightly scripted. It is from the heart. And the point of this podcast is all about shelter cats. All about the shelter cats that have made a huge difference in my life. And I hope that will serve as an inspiration to get you to adopt a shelter cat of your own. Or another if you have one and you have the space. Or three. You never know. You may have a big house. I don't. As always, I do my little preamble. As I'm recording this, it is June 13th. It is almost a week after we had that huge air quality thing in New York. That was pretty scary. I looked out the window and everything looked like the surface of Mars or Saturn. And I have a colony of about 5 or 6 stray cats that show up at my door. And it didn't stop them from showing up for food. I was worried about them. And right in the middle of the afternoon last Wednesday, when everything was orange in New York, there were 2 of my cats waiting for food. No problems at all. They were fine. So I'm glad we all made it through okay. That was very scary. And I was just outside with one of my colony cats. Her name is Penelope. She lives in my backyard. And the difference is amazing. It was a beautiful day. Beautiful day to record this awesome podcast. And I'm very, very excited for today's guest. But as always, I do my little opening here because, yeah, I'd love if you followed my social media, but mostly I want to hear from you. Yeah, I want to see pictures of your cats. I want you to tell me your stories about your cats, how you adopted them, the story about how you found them, stories about life with your cats, the special things they do, the things they do that make you happy, and I want to hear about how they helped you through tough times in your life, just like mine have basically saved my life. I want to hear from you. So I have a link tree that I'm finally going to remember to tell you. It's linktr.ee/sheltercats. Or I'm on the web, tylerthecat.com. You could email me, dan@tylerthecat.com. I am on Facebook, just search Shelter Cats. I am on Instagram and TikTok, Shelter Cats Podcast. I'm on Twitter, Shelter Cats POD, that's Shelter Cats Pod. I have a Medium blog. I love Medium. It's medium.com/sheltercats, or just go on Medium and search Shelter Cats. And you can support the Shelter Cats podcast on Spotify and Patreon. Just search Shelter Cats on Patreon or email me and I'll send you the link. And if you're on Spotify and you search for the podcast, there's a little symbol with a little $sign, looks like a little bank. If you click that, you can support the podcast in any amount you like. I don't want to make a penny off of this. All that would go towards the purchase of better equipment so that I can make better podcasts so more people find out about it and get inspired to adopt shelter cats. That is why I wouldn't mind if somebody supported the podcast. If you don't want to, that's fine. It doesn't matter to me. I'm going to keep doing my episodes and telling my stories because this is a labor of love, not of money. So I'm so excited. Today's episode is called Jasper the Wonder Shelter Cat. And my old friend Shari is going to be joining me after I finish rambling. She's been a friend of mine for years. She's had many cats in her life. And she's gone through some tough times that some shelter cats have really, really come to help her through. And many, many times she said to me, I don't know what I would do if it wasn't for my shelter cats. So today she's going to talk about primarily her current cat, Jasper. Isn't that a cool name for a cat, Jasper? It's like Jasper the Friendly Ghost. No, that's Casper the Friendly Ghost. So she just adopted Jasper last year from a shelter called All About Cats that's in, I think, in Oceanside, New York, on Long Island as well. Not too far from JFK Airport. So without further ado, here is my conversation with Shari and Jasper, the Wonder Shelter Cat. Hi.
Hello.
Hi there. How are you, Shari?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. So welcome to my Shelter Cats podcast.
Thank you.
I'm so happy you're here. Um, so I did a little preamble, like I usually do, but I wanted to, I guess, can you introduce yourself as much as you want to? Uh, leave anything out you want to leave out. I know we've been friends for years.
we so I feel as though the best way to describe our friendship is that the universe always knew we were supposed to be in each other's lives, and it just took us a really long time to figure out what that was actually supposed to look like. And I think we're there now.
Yes, yes. Well, I, I'm stubborn. You're perhaps also a tiny bit stubborn, so
Just a tiny.
it kind of worked out the way it did, and and here we are,
And here we
and
are.
and now Jasper gets his own episode.
And now Jasper gets his own episode.
So the whole
Jasper.
the whole the whole point behind this podcast is like a regular everyday shelter cat, not a fancy schmancy cat, from a breeder.
Right.
Basically saved my life, as you know, my Tucker
Yes.
did. So I'm trying to inspire more people to adopt shelter cats, and you were like the first person I inspired to. Inspired,
Badgered.
pressured, pushed, wouldn't leave you alone got
Until I
a
got there.
until you got a shelter cat. So Jasper isn't your first cat, right? You've had other cats.
No, technically, Jasper would be my third shelter cat, and they've all sort of saved me in their own way. The first one was a black cat named Destiny that I adopted with my first husband. Um, Unfortunately, shortly before we split up, and I couldn't take her with me, but she protected me when I needed protection in that situation. Um,
Like
but I had to.
how did she protect you, if you don't mind my asking?
She knew when I was having a tough time, and she found me wherever I was in the house, and she sat on my lap and she purred, and it got everyone else in the home to leave me alone. So it was she was special. I mean, she came right in and just kind of knew, and she was 9 years old when we adopted her.
Oh wow.
Um, and she just came right in and knew what her role was. And then there was another cat in the house, and they had no relationship with each other. It was sort of like me and my ex-husband. And so she was a special girl, and you know, I hope that she had a peaceful wherever she ended up. Um, and then when my husband and I were dating, I was living in a co-op, and I've always been an animal person. I don't like to say, everyone's like, "Are you a cat person or you're a dog person?" No, I love animals. I love them all, and I would have a menagerie. Um, but in the co-op, we weren't allowed to have a dog. So we got to the point where we really needed an animal because I've just always had an animal in my home. And we went to a shelter that had animal cats in the open, shall we say. Um, I didn't love my experience with that particular shelter, and it was also really overwhelming to walk in a room with like that many cats.
It can be. It can be.
And they had a quiet area for the cats that, like, preferred quiet, and I was like, "Take me there." And this cat came over to us, and I wanted a black cat. You know how I feel about black cats, and I wanted a black cat, and this cat was a tuxedo, and I was like, I don't know," and he reached his paw out to me, and he put it on my hand, and looked me in the eyes, and I was like, "All right, this one's coming home with us." And I don't remember what his original name was, but we called him Taco. And when we
Because you
adopted,
were hungry that day, or
no, it came from The League. I don't know if you've ever seen the show The League.
no?
It's a sports show
Oh, no wonder.
about a bunch of guys that like fantasy football, and there's a character in it named Taco, and he was Taco Cat. 'Cause
You
that
you go to sports, I go to food, but okay.
um, and I mean, he came home and fortunately, every cat I've ever brought home, I didn't ever have that, like, long period of hiding with them. They always kind of adjusted quickly, so Taco adjusted really quickly. He was very funny. He was 20 pounds, he was huge,
Oh my god.
and, um, he they told us he was 6, but as soon as we took him to our vet, they said, "Oh, no, he's like 10." And I was like, "That's fine." I always like to adopt the older ones because I always feel like people go to these places to get the kittens.
Right, right.
And,
Often do.
so we had him, through our marriage, through getting married, through my pregnancy, through having my daughter, and he actually, I believe, contracted COVID and died at the beginning of COVID.
Oh my god.
Um, yeah, and so that was really rough. It was, like, at the very beginning of COVID, but we were still able to have somebody come to the house to help us. He had gone from 20 pounds to, like, 10 pounds, which on a cat is a big
Yeah.
deal.
Yeah, you know
So
something's up.
right, and he was crying, he talked all the time. He just would never shut up, but this was a different cry.
Yeah.
So, that was at the beginning of COVID, and, um, I'm like, I don't want another animal for a while. We were dealing with so much. And then you and I got in touch, I don't know, a little over a year ago. Again, we sort of reconnected. And my husband and I had been talking about getting a cat um, for a while. I didn't want a dog because cats are just easier. They're so much more self sufficient and quiet, and I already had a plan. I was getting an automatic feeder. We were getting the best automatic cleaning litter box we could get. Like, I just wanted this to be as easy for me as possible because with a small child in the house, the last thing I actually wanted was something else to take care of. So there was no way I was getting a puppy. Um, and
No,
you and I had talked
no,
about it.
no offense, dog people.
No offense, no. I just didn't wanna raising a puppy is like a toddler, and I had just finished doing that. I was not doing it again.
Of course, totally understand.
So, um, you and I had talked about it. You're like, "Just go do it, just go do it." And I was like, "No." I was like, we had this big trip planned for Hawaii in October, and it was, like, a long way off, and so I'm like, "After Hawaii, we can talk." I was like, "But I'm getting a male black cat," and I felt very strongly about that, and you felt very strongly that I shouldn't feel strongly about that. Um, but
You know, listen, I respect it, but I definitely I said try to keep an open mind, and you said no. I'm not going to keep an open mind. I
no,
want what I
yeah.
want.
No, I've had a history of black cats, especially male black cats, and they are different than any other cat. They see you and they speak to you and they know what's up and they're chill. And I feel like they know because they're like black cats and most people don't want them, that they are just so lucky that somebody wants them. Um, so I told you I'm gonna get a cat after Hawaii, but it's gonna be a male black cat. And unfortunately, I don't know if you remember, but after Hawaii was Halloween.
Yeah.
And you were calling around shelters for me going, I have this friend that really wants a black cat. And the shelters were like, what does your friend want a black cat for around Halloween? And you're like, no, 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 it's not like that. She just really wants a black cat. And
I
it was
wasn't thinking of the holiday. I was just trying to get the ball rolling. And yeah,
right. And
I did get that. Like, you know what holiday it is, right? Like, I don't
right.
care. No, it's not a decoration. She wants to welcome another shelter cat into her life.
Yeah. And but what was amazing, I because you had sort of introduced me to a bunch of different shelters, and all of them had a black cat missing an eye. And
Yeah,
I don't know what that's about, but someone needs to research that and stop that from happening.
I agree.
And normally, I wouldn't care, but since I have a 6-year-old and this is gonna be a pet that we have for a long time and, like, her kind of first experience because though she was alive, she was around for Taco, she was very young. So
Right.
I just didn't want to bring that. Normally, I wouldn't care, but that was like, I can't do it.
That's fair.
So
That's fair.
we went we went through a couple shelters, and then you told me to go to All Cats Rescue, right? That was the name of it?
All about cats. Yeah.
Yeah. And we got in the car, we drove over there because they said they had a few black cats. And um and all of the other shelters that we had gotten in contact with, they're like, you have to fill out this form and we have to do a home visit and we need to know this and the vet and the that. And I'm like, this is getting overwhelming. It wasn't this hard to bring my daughter home from the hospital. So I was like, I don't know what this is, but like I just want a cat. So we went to the shelter and they had a kitten. They had one black kitten, but it was a female. And I was like, "Well, I'll hold her because it's a kitten." And I didn't know if a kitten would be like the best thing for my daughter or not.
Right.
And I'm like, "I'm gonna hold her and I'm gonna see how I feel." And I held her for a few seconds and she leaped out of my arms. And I looked at my husband. I'm like, "Nope, she's not
Sorry.
our cat.
Nope. Sorry.
She she's not our girl. If she don't want to cuddle with me, she's not our girl." So they said we have these two black cats, brother and sister, and they were I don't think they had been there that long, and the original owner said they were too much work, which was confusing to me. Um, and they were trying to show me the two cats. And the sister was like, she was putting on a show. She was playing with all the toys. She was she was out and about and energetic. And then there was Jasper in a corner, like, "What is this lunatic doing?" And I'm like, "That one. That one's for me."
You just knew it. You
The
just knew it right
one
away.
the one judging all the other cats, that's my cat. That's my cat. So I picked him up and I held him and we talked
You talked to
and
Jasper.
yeah, me and Jasper talked and worked some things out. And I felt he was all black and he was a male cat. He was a gentle soul and and he wasn't crazy running around like all the other cats. And I was like, that's what I need in my life. So we went into the like adoption room. Now, based on all the other adoption situations we had been in prior to this, I thought, I wasn't going home with him that day. And so I asked the woman, How long is this gonna take?" And she was like, "I like, is an hour too long?" And I was like, "What?
Yeah.
I'm gonna bring him home now? Wait, we're not ready."
Yeah. Yeah.
We
No,
don't
you're right. It usually takes days, and they go
right? I'm
through a
like, "I
process.
don't have anything." So I'm like literally Instacarting cat things to my house while I'm signing the papers. And and we brought him home. They gave us a crate for him. He walked right in. He was like, "I'm going home. This is cool." And we will we now I live in a two-family house. So I have 2 levels and then my parents live below us and they have 2 levels. And my mom was so against me getting a cat because she believed herself a dog person, even though she loved all my previous cats. Um,
She was trying to get you to get a dog.
yeah, she wanted me to get a dog so that I would take care of it and she would just have the benefit of having a dog.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So,
Good deal for her.
yeah, which I didn't want to take care of a dog.
Right.
Um, so we brought Jasper home and we explained it to my daughter and we had quickly gotten the litter box delivered and so that we could at least open the crate near the litter box. And he was only supposed to be allowed on our 2 levels of the house, which is still a lot of space for him. And we just kind of opened the thing and let him go. And he he didn't hide at all. It was amazing. I've like even Taco hit a little bit for like 20 minutes. Jasper was like, let me and tail in the air, straight up in the air, like he wasn't scared. He's like, I am home. This is mine. We are good. And he didn't cry that night.
What was your daughter's first reaction? Like, what were their
She was
reactions to each other?
she was so excited and she got on the floor with him. You know, I'm nervous because he's an animal and they told us he was maybe 1 year old, so I didn't know if he had any child experience and
Right.
sometimes small people make animals nervous.
Right.
He immediately started rubbing his face on her and headbutting her, and they were just it was love at first sight, I think, for the both of them. And
That's awesome.
since
And she's
since
6, right?
yeah, she's 6, and since then they have just been the best of friends. She had a surgery recently, and he did not leave her side. Um, but he goes to the person in the house that needs him, and he knows who that is and when that is. And it took about a month for my mom to be like, okay, you can open the door and let him down. And now her house is covered in cat toys. She has treats for him. He trained them that if he sits on the mat, they're supposed to give him a treat. And I mean it the way I said it. He trained them. He
That's
sits
the
on this
best part of the
mat.
story
Yeah,
is your
he
mother
sits
loves it.
on the mat and he calls for her and she gives him treats. And it's adorable because you know, she didn't meet him for 2 weeks. She wouldn't even come up the stairs to meet him for 2 weeks.
Wow.
And now she steals him like on a daily basis for a while. Um
Maybe they should get their own.
no,
No?
they shouldn't. No. First of all, I don't think Jasper wants a friend. I think
Okay.
this is his house, and I don't think he'd be cool with it. I could be wrong, but I just get the
Some
vibe.
cats prefer that. Yeah, some cats prefer to be alone. It's definitely
Yeah,
true.
I just get the vibe that he's like, "This is mine. Just, just leave it how it is." So, and that's about as much as I can take care of. You know, a 6-year-old and a cat. So, and what's funny is this little stinker. I say to my husband all the time, he was hiding his white from me because now he lays down on the bed and he rolls over and he has huge white patches on his belly that I didn't see. And even my husband, would you have taken him home if you saw the white patches? And I'm like, I'm not sure, but he knew. He knew, and
You knew to hide them first.
he waited a long time until I was like, "Is that white on you? You have white on you?"
I know you sent me a picture. Like, look at this. He's got white on him. I just found out.
Yep, he's a little stinker. So
But he's worth it. White patches and all.
white patches and all, he's a true black cat at heart. He's a head sitter. He um he's not a lap cat, but if you lay down, like sometimes in the middle of the night, there is a cat on my head sleeping, and he's just all paws, like he grows extra paws, and that's where he wants to sleep, on my head. and he's very happy there.
And some cats are head sleepers. I cannot explain the reasoning behind that, but Tyler did that too.
Yeah.
He would sometimes just fall on the pillow, and I'd have an extra hairpiece for a few hours.
Yeah, he wants to be there, and he's purring, and he's happy, and he's all paws. Um, and he's definitely a, "I'm gonna come to you. Don't come to," if you go to him first, he's like, "I'm out." He's like, "I'll come to you when I am ready. When you are ready, I
He's
will
very much an
decide."
alpha cat.
Yes, I will make the decision, but we have a way of calling him. I think I've told you this before. We have one of them fancy beds that goes up and down and has lights and it vibrates. And a lot of times he'd hide under the bed and I would be afraid to put the vibrate on because I didn't know if it would scare him. So I would only do it like if I thought he was in another room or something. And what I noticed was if I hit the vibrate, he appears. He comes, lays on the bed with me.
He thinks your bed is
And
purring.
I think he thinks it's just me purring really, like, I'm just a big purring human, and so, if I ever can't find him, because he is very much a black cat and will just disappear and reappear, um, I put the bed on, and then there he is.
That's awesome. You see, black cats get a bad rap. You were saying before
They
about
do.
how some, you saw some and they had some injuries and stuff like that. They get a bad
Yeah.
rap, and I think people are superstitious of them. Thus, the possibility of you saw some with injuries. Black cats get a bad rap, but my Tyler was a tuxedo. I know too much white for you on a
Yeah.
black cat, but he was the same way. He just had a human connection with me. Like, and I've had 800 cats ever since. And no cat
Mhm.
connected with me on the same level that he did. And it was the same thing. If I was sick, he would not leave my side. Like,
Mhm.
relentlessly would stay on the bed with me. If I was a bachelor for many years before you and I became friends, and the same thing. He just, if I was down, if there was anything wrong, he just had a way of cheering me up. Usually,
Yep.
he would do his hoppity walk across the floor, or he'd unplug the cable box, or he'd just do something to shake me out of it. He'd bring me a toy, or howl, or whatever. And it's the same thing. They just, all cats bond with their owners. I have five now, and I have a very strong bond with them, each in a different way, but none stronger than with the black cats I've had in my life.
Yeah, my very first experience with a black cat was my friend growing up. She had a cat named Benny. He was all black, and he would sit on the kitchen table with you and look you in the eye and listen to you. And it was though you were having a conversation with him. He 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 heard he was like a therapist. And I there was one time I was sick and I went over there because my mom had to work and somebody had to watch me, and there's just a picture of me sleeping on a chair with Benny just like right up against me because he was there to help whoever needed him, and he was just an amazing animal. And so that's where my first love of black cats came in. And then when I rescued Destiny in such a dire time, and she was just such a special animal. um I thought all of my cats were going to be black, but then Taco talked me into adopting him, and oh my god, he had so much to say. He had so, and he was a complete lap cat. Like he would yell at us when we would get home from work to sit down so that he could sit on us. He would just follow us around the house until we would sit down so he could sit on us.
And it's better than any meditation or sleeping pill on earth is, is
Absolutely.
when a cat sleeps on you.
Yes. Even if
That,
it's your head.
even if it's your head, at least keeps you warm too when it's cold. And and Jasper is very young, so this is a lifetime that you get to have with
Yeah.
him. Hopefully, no more white patches show up. Uh, you know, otherwise I'm going to get more pictures. Dan, what? Why is he turning? Why is he changing
Why?
color?
Why do they turn white? I've never seen them turn white
I've
before.
heard
No,
dogs go gray, but I didn't know cats went gray. Um,
yeah, I don't. He just had hidden white patches. And they're all like he has like one under his arm, and he hid them from me. He hid them. He
on
knew.
purpose. He knew.
Yeah, he knew.
And
He
your
knew.
daughter gets to like basically grow up with him.
Yeah, they get to grow up together, which I think is. I mean, I think it's important for kids. It's a small responsibility. It's learning to care for something that needs you. Um, I think it's a really important lesson that you can't teach them any other way. So, we let her, right, it's chores based on her, age and ability. So right now she's just putting food down for him. And as she grows, her responsibilities for him will change, and so will their bond. I mean, if if she's sleeping upstairs in her proper bedroom, sometimes he'll sleep with her, sometimes he won't. In my parents' part of the house, they have a bedroom for her. And if she's sleeping down there because my parents are babysitting her, so like we're not home for whatever reason, he will not leave her side because that's different. That's a change. And he has to make sure that she's protected because Sean and I aren't there.
That's awesome.
Yep. And
That's
there are
awesome.
times when I get home and I go to check on her, and he'll be laying in the bed with her, and he just gives me this look like, "What? You weren't here. You left me in charge."
And how long have you had him already?
It's since October. I mean, maybe early November.
So, and that's not even a year. And look at the difference that
No,
he's
no.
made for
He,
everybody.
yeah, no, he's made a huge difference in everybody's life. He's definitely brought joy on tough days, um and been there in dark moments, and he just knows. He just knows. And we needed him, and I mean, I there was a point where you and my husband were talking and like, we're going to get her to do this. She needs a cat. She needs a cat. And I
Yeah,
remember when we brought Jasper home, within a day, my husband was like, "There's no way I'm ever going to let you be without a cat ever again. I We waited way too long."
well, it was timed. Yes, maybe you did wait a little too long. Maybe you needed a little convincing, but that's part of your charm. But it was timed, and I meant that sarcastically, kind of.
Yeah, yeah.
And it was meant to be for you to find Jasper at that point in time. And I
Yes.
was so thrilled that you found the type of cat you wanted, and and I thought his name was awesome, like Jasper. Like
Yeah,
it's
we
not.
didn't change his name because he seemed to know it.
Yeah, he's just a Jasper.
Yeah.
Doesn't he have his own TikTok?
Yes, he does. I don't even know. I think it's Jasper is Possum, and sometimes I post videos of him being Possum
So he's
because
got a TikTok. If you guys want to go find him.
he's very funny, and sometimes I do things to um to encourage his funniness. But, he got in an argument with a squirrel through the window. He lets me put things on his head, so, like, I put a mane on him, or I wrapped a little hanky around his head. Um, he's very tolerant of me and my six-year-old. Um, and we say he's a gangster cat, like, he actually is an assassin.
Well, he's got the
Like,
he's got the window, the perch that suctions to the window, and
yes, so he's up above everybody else, and if there's, like, a bug there or a bird, he looks like he's gonna attack, but he's never like, he does not actually wanna go out the front door or the back. He doesn't actually wanna interact with these animals. Like, I do not worry about him leaving the house because he is like, "Nope, we're cool here, guys. We're cool. We
awesome,
don't need to leave."
awesome. So everybody, the moral of the story is this is what I mean by a shelter cat could definitely make a huge difference in your life. So I'm not just talking out of my head. And if you see a black cat in a shelter, check their undersides just to be safe, because they may not be all black. But give black cats a chance.
Black cats are the best. Male
Give,
black cats are the best cats.
absolutely. Could not agree more. Well, this was amazing. I could talk to you for hours,
No one
but
wants to listen to us for hours.
we'll have you back. We'll have Jasper back for future episodes. I know you said you're going to get him an agent.
He needs an agent.
He's an
He's
agent
he's
now.
becoming too big. Yeah.
If I ever start a YouTube for this, we'll have him on. And thank you very much. Thank you so
Thank you
much for
for
joining me.
having me.
And we'll have you back soon.
Okay.
Take care. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
That was just awesome. I just really, really enjoyed that conversation. We really could have just gone on talking for hours, and as friends, we frequently do. So thank you, Shari. Thank you, Jasper, who was probably somewhere sleeping when we had that conversation. Just an amazing story. And that's the whole point. One of the main points behind this podcast. I'm going to have more friends on. I'm going to have more rescues on to talk about what they do. But this is the point. This is the point behind what I want to do with this podcast. I don't want to make money off of it. I don't want to become famous. It's not about me. It's about regular, everyday shelter cats. Cats that are sitting in shelters right now as you're listening to my Brooklyn accent. Cats that are sitting in shelters right now can do amazing things and can make such a difference in your life. Just like that, you just go to your local shelter, go to your local rescue group, reach out to them, and go to where they're fostering cats right now, and let that cat find you the way my cats have found me, the way Jasper found Shari and her family, and they can do amazing things and make such a difference in your life. When you're happy, when you're sad, when you're stressed, when times are great, when times are tough, that cat will be there for you, no matter what. I would not be existing today doing this labor of love if it wasn't for just a shelter cat. My Tucker, just a shelter cat, just a tabby cat in a shelter. And he knew what I needed without my even having to tell him, and without my knowing myself. He knew what I needed. And when I was at the depths of my depression and despair over the state of my life and the state of my relationship, he put his face on my face. He hugged me in bed. He laid with me. He put his face on my face. He purred. And I held him like a stuffed bear. And it just brought my mind right back to where it should be, to the present. That's what a shelter cat could do. So this is awesome. Thank you so much. And we'll see you in next week's episode.